today we have another effect which I want to speak about. It's called TGIF effect. What's that? Anybody idea TGIF? What's TGIF? Exactly. The old stalwarts like us, we know it's thank God it's Friday effect. So at least we have few members in the here listening to us, waiting that, okay, Friday, it's Friday, let's go and have whatever, a beer outside. And by the way, just for knowledge, TGIF is coming out with 75 new outlets. I happen to know Mr. Prasoon Banerjee Mukherjee through some extent. There was an article there, so it's good for all of us. And yesterday, I was talking to the organizers here that after lunch, we need tea, man. I mean, we are all a chai wala company, right? Chai wala country. Chai ki bina kaam hota nahi hai. And maybe we also will start having beer here one day. Okay, even after international conferences, if you see, we have lunch, we can get our lunch inside, we can get our tea inside, coffee inside, but here somehow we still have, so NextGen, sir, Praveen sir, if you're listening, NextGen conference, hopefully tea and coffee at least is allowed to be brought in, not beer, of course. I'm not talking of the beer.
No, I've asked multiple times to bring tea and coffee in city.
Is it? Okay, so maybe an announcement can happen here as well. And I'm not basically advocating tea or beer or shares market here. Of course, that's Prime Minister's job. He's in Paris right now, and with the green, he's promoting green energy, I believe, there as well. And by the way, Sensex has touched 66,000, right? So it's fantastic. And we're talking of 1 trillion technology, the economy here. I think he's doing his job. We need to do our job here. And I believe, Praveen, it was very right for you to bring us in after the people from Deepak Phenolics and from Make Money came in, because they were the actual industrialists. But every manufacturer requires a distribution setup. So we are these distributors who actually distribute the chemicals which they produce, whether safely and with all the sustainability we have been talking about. That's what our job is, we bring in. So there's also very good, we have an excellent panelist here. So if you really see here, Captain Sir was already introduced as the stalwart for shipping industry. He has wealth of experience. Arun was introduced as the techie, the new, the startup guy, so you can understand here. Daljit is basically from Antwerp port, so he brings in all the new technologies. Whatever is learning outside, he's going to tell us what's going to happen. Of course, Rajneesh is there. He is an expert on supply chain from end to end. He'll tell us on that. And of course, DKSH person Vishal, he is one of our largest distributors in the world, and he is also a wealth of knowledge outside. So we have a real wealth of knowledge in this panelists here. Okay. See, new age distribution challenges and opportunities is a topic, new age, right? Pandemic, we all know that what effect it had on us. Everything was disrupted, including distribution. We had again, so people started thinking of China Plus One, what do we do with the Make in India, what should happen, new technologies coming in, sustainability coming in, things like that, right? Now this is, so what we thought, let's discuss this, what we can do as distributors, what changes need to be done here in this new world. And we're going to divide this into, say, 3 parts, basically. One is, of course, the knowledge from the world-class distributors, what can change, what's the new trends happening. From the supply chain, what can be done, whether it's shipping, whether it's the hydrogen fuel or whatever in sustainability we can do, whether there's carbon emission reductions there. And of course, the tech part of it, what we can actually learn from you and what we can actually disturb the entire common old distribution setup and bring it into the new part. And of course, learnings from international ports, etc. So I'll start with you, Vishal. As you are part of DKSH, one of the largest distributors in the world, and for APAC. So, and you have seen this trend happening in the pandemic, right? Of changes happening here. So what are the actual trends you see, are the new trends coming in? And where do you feel we all should fit in and what should we do?
Okay. Thank you, Alok. And thank you everyone for being here. As you asked me, Alok, that what are the new trends, everyone would agree that chemical industry is undergoing many changes, witnessing many changes, and huge transformation is happening. So from the distribution perspective, if you ask me the changes, then first is obviously the buzzword, that is sustainability. Because the word chemical itself attracts a lot of attention, in bracket maybe negative. So people are much more aware nowadays, and they are trying to be responsible suppliers at all the stages. So distributors are also adopting to environmental friendly packaging, the logistics, and the products itself. So distributors, they have sustainability champions to evaluate the suppliers who can even supply green products or eco-friendly products, and those alternatives can be given as the, those are the alternatives for the traditional chemicals. So that is one thing. Another big thing which we are seeing or witnessing is the digital transformation. Most of the MNCs and followed by the, I would say Indian distributor also are trying to adopt to different digital technologies to optimize their processes to increase customer satisfaction. They are also using data analytics and artificial intelligence so that they can get trends of they can get the market trends and they can enhance their customer experience as such. So with digitalization and with globalization, distributor can expand their market. With the expansion, they can tap the emerging market and they can supply to these customers and then meet their unmet needs. So that is also one of the key trend. Also, what we are witnessing in India is the strategic alliances, that is joint ventures and mergers and acquisition, which is changing the distribution landscape and the landscape of the manufacturers also. That's also very important because it has its pros, it has its cons for the distributor and as well as for the customers. Then if you come to the next trend is the supply chain mitigation, because post-COVID or during the COVID, people have seen a lot of disruptions. These could be because of natural disaster, maybe political instability, or maybe because of trade dispute. But it's very important that customers' production should not be affected, and hence people are investing into newer technologies or how to mitigate this risk of supply chain disruptions by diversifying the portfolio, by introducing new sourcing techniques. So that is one thing. And if you ask me, another last but not the least is probably the innovation and value-added services through the application laboratory or innovation center. So that is also where distributors are investing a lot so that they can again fulfill their customer demands.
Thank you, Vishal. It's a very interesting point. It's not just the producers who are going green. Even the distributors like MNCs like say Brenntag, us, DKSH, we are also ensuring that whatever we intake, we distribute, we ensure that they have to become green. We are helping them as well. Second point you said about digitalization. So even we have a program called DIDEX, Digital Excellence. We all have that coming in. It's very much becoming a part. So we help producers in their carbon credits, in sustainability, in going green, etc. And of course, M&A, yes. I can see a lot of M&As happening in India too, and we have to all grow through M&As. Thank you, Shah. I'll come to you, Rajneesh, as you are an expert of supply chain. Remember this, I think Meghav from Make Money Dicam, he spoke of that if you have to become a 1 trillion technology, economy, we all have to change, and even supply chain has to come in and really do very well. So what are your things there? What are the trends coming in, whether in terms of shipping or port operations, warehousing, inland logistics? What are the emerging trends and what should we do? What should we adapt?
Thanks, sir. First of all, one clarification. I'm not an expert in supply chain. I'm one of the tools, I'm one of the partners, logistics partners to everyone. And I think the shipping industry is doing lots and lots of things which generally we don't come to here. And then you'll realize that I'm a very small fry in that.
So that's humble of him. Experts don't say that they are experts. Anyway, thanks, Ajit.
Thank you. Sir, one biggest change what I have noticed is till about 5 years, 7 years back, you walk into a client's office in one of the big company like yours, and then the whole discussion would hover around, okay, what's the transit time? How much is going to cost? People were willing to listen up, okay, flexi bag is cheaper than an ISO tank, IBC is cheaper, let's go ahead with that. But what we have noticed is in the last 5 years, there has been lots and lots of changes where companies are willing to pay a premium on an ISO tank because that's definitely far better way, far safer way of transportation. Similarly, nowadays, when we speak to clients and they talk about, okay, how clean is this logistics solution you're talking about? What are the carbon emissions? What's the greenhouse gas emissions? What are your sustainability stuff you are doing? So all these discussions till few years back, we never heard about. And that, I think, is the biggest change that we have witnessed. Now that I'm talking to, I come from a maritime background and I'm talking to the chemical industry, the chemical experts over here. Let me quickly dwell upon in terms of what changes the maritime industry is going through to be more cleaner, if I may say so. Shipping is said to be contributing 3% of total carbon dioxide emissions globally. And the maritime industry is governed by the International Maritime Organization, which is part of the UNO body. So all the ships in the world are regulated by the rules prescribed by the IMO, which is headquartered in London. Just last week, last Friday, the IMO concluded its 80th session on Maritime and Environmental Protection Committee, where they have set out targets for themselves that all ships in the world would achieve net zero by 2050. It comes in stages, so 20% by 2030, 70% by 2040, and by 2050, they would go net zero. Now that's a huge target, looking at life of a ship as 20, 30, 40 years, at least, depending on the type of the ship you're talking about. Now a ship in 2050, if it has to be net zero, a 20-year-old ship means it would have been built around 2025, say for example, if I take 20, 22 years life of a ship. So in the next 2-3 years, we will have to start building up ships which are meeting those, adhering to those guidelines which are going to be coming in 2050. Now that's a very uphill task, requires lots and lots of investments, but still as a maritime transport sector, we are pretty optimistic that it's a doable thing. And why it is so? Because if you look at the trend that has happened in last few years, even if we take the last 5 years or so, 2020, the new target for the marine fuel came in, wherein we now have to use marine fuel which has got 0.5% sulfur content less than 0.5%. This rule came up in 1st of January 2020. So today either we are using the very low sulfur fuel oil, or in case I'm using the higher sulfur fuel oil, I have to put up scrubbers on the ship. We are able to capture the sulfur that's going out, and that's how the emissions are clean. Next was, can we switch over from heavy fuel oil to low sulfur fuel oil to cleaner form of fuel? So cleaner form, there are lots and lots of progress happening, lots and lots of investment has gone into, okay, let's replace heavy fuel oil with a cleaner fuel. Now what's a cleaner fuel? Everybody talks about today is the end target is hydrogen. Hydrogen can be the fuel which is propelling the ships on which your cargo is being carried. Now that's a far-fetched target, but till that comes in, we have methane, we have ammonia. Again, in ammonia, we have got green ammonia, blue ammonia, and then we have LNG. So today, as we speak, more than 680 ships in the world, which is very low, less than 1%, but yes, still it's a substantial number. More than 680 ships in the world today are fueled by LNG, which till about 10 years back was zero. So still progress has taken place, and it will be even more rapid. Once it's like an electric vehicle. We all would love to buy an electric vehicle, but there are not many charging points today. If I have to take my vehicle from here to Pune, I would prefer my car which is running on a petrol rather than electric, because there are not much charging points. So for LNG ships, a number of LNG bunkering facilities have come up. Today in the world, there are more than 35 places where LNG bunkering is possible. Another 14 ships are on order. So in 3 years' time, you will have more than 50 places in the world where a ship can take LNG. About, I think, 8 or 9 of those are in Asia, rest in the western part of the planet. So the reason I'm specifying all these points are, we are making progress. When you hand over your cargo to us for shipping it from port A to port B, rest assured you are contributing in making this planet a greener planet. So that's what we as a maritime industry are pushing very, very vigorously. I'll quickly, just 1 minute, touch upon ports because I've got two port experts sitting next to me. As JM Baxi, we operate about 9 port terminals in India today, and by end of 2 years, we will be running 15 terminals in India. I'm happy to say that end of 3 years from today, all our port terminals, all the equipments over there would be running on electricity. And more than half, if the things go as per the plans, more than half of that electricity would be derived from renewables. We are setting up solar plants at the various ports, and it's not only GM Baxi, but the entire port industry of India which is doing it. So the ships are clean, the ports are clean, and similarly on inland transportation, many developments are taking place which are going to use much more cleaner fuels, giving us all the assurance that yes, we are contributing in making our planet a cleaner planet. That's it.
Even our Prime Minister is actually committed, right? From 2070, India will have net zero. That's the commitment we have given. So every industry is obviously giving much lower, much earlier targets. Just a question to you, is all this green fuel you're talking about and clean energy you're talking about, is it going to affect our costs? Because I'm worried about as a producer or as a supplier or as a distributor, is it going to really affect our costs in transportation or no?
Sir, the first point which I mentioned, till 5 years back, they used to say, yaar, paisa kitna lage, batao na, saste se sasta batao. But today, believe me, an ISO tank costs more than a flexi bag, and still the ISO tank industry in India is growing. That means each one of present in this room is feeling, yes, even if I have to pay a slight premium, let me adopt a better way of doing it. I mean, the cost cannot be prohibitive, it cannot be very expensive, but yes, there is a premium.
I think the entire supply chain, everybody is getting the pressures of going green, that's why. It's not just that somebody in between is doing it, so the cost is going to be shared all over, I believe. Thank you, Rajnish, thank you. Now we have an expert, basically from the shipping industry, many years in the shipping industry. And we would like to hear from him. See, we have been talking of safety as well. On transportation, we heard of safety on the road transport. How do you see the safety in terms of even shipping transport, right? And we have talked of circular economy in a number of forums. What do you have? What are your views on circular economy as well? So it will be great to hear from you, Mr. Ram, Captain Ram.
Thanks, Alokji. Thank you so much. Nice to see you all. Actually, there's quite a few numbers here. Post, what is it? Friday afternoon.
TGIF,
Thank you guys
TGIF.
for at least trying to listen to an important aspect called safety. Thanks, Amit, you already set the tone. I don't have to talk much about it. Netrodyne has been doing phenomenal. If you guys can do more, and that is the start point, phenomenal. I think hats off to you and your team for doing human services on the road safety. Safety and safety on transportation, distribution, logistics. That is exactly what we are talking about. The theme is something on the sustenance and everything. Everything else can come later. I am passionate about safety. It is safety when we talk about logistics, when we talk about supply chain, when we talk about distribution thing. Everything is all about safety. Safety of life, safety of your property, your money, your moolah, and of course safety of environment. Now this is the real mool mantra. There is moolah and there is the mool mantra. Both, all these three things have to be there. And we have Tina factor, we need to be on that. But the problem which I see everywhere what across is, this is what I want to stress upon, is the chalta attitude. यार मेरे बाप दादाओं ने किया था, उन्होंने भी चला रहे गाड़ी, आप क्या बता रहे हो मुझे? इतने दिन मैं रोड क्रॉस करता हूँ. This is what I always hear and I always say, please, don't play chicken. Don't play chicken. This is what it is. You have escaped for the last 99 times. I use a simple analogy. Sorry, you'll have to give me 1 more minute for this analogy. Right when I was a wee young one, about 17-year-old, and I was under the tutelage of a famous British ex-Marine whatever, admiral and all. He asked me a simple thing called as, what is 2x plus 3? Everybody, 2x plus 3 is equal to 5, x is equal to what? I said, क्या बेवकूफ़ बातें कर रहा है यार, ये तो हमारे तरफ से बच्चे बोलते हैं हिंदुस्तान में. Then he brought me down from my high horse and shared a very beautiful thing. He says, वो तो कहानी है, let me tell you the reality. You take a flight, every day, and he said like, उसे बताते हैं, ये आया है, Captain Rajneesh, not you, all right. Captain Rajneesh pass percentage 35, उसने 34 marks पे कैसे भी ₹1 करके आगे चला के, and if that is disclosed to you, would you climb on that flight? How many of you would like to raise your hand on this? Not a single one here. This is exactly the thing. He shared that कि भैया आप है ना marine industry में जा रहे हो, you will be carrying millions of tons, millions of cargo worth. And that is what is safety. You can't afford a chance. Either you are safe or you are unsafe. So there is no, what I want to bring home is, there is no alternative to safety. We need, the Chalta altitude must go off in the chemical industry. The MSDS, which most of the shippers share, is years old, nobody even cares. The chemists who has signed it and prepared the MSDS, I'm not talking about every one of you, there is, because this chemical industry which is moving today is full of, there's a very huge percentage of traders in that. And the MSDS, the safety aspect is not shared when the cargo moves from one hand to another hand. The MSDS is not, you don't even tell them what to do it. What to do it, what will happen if something happens. And I think it's time that we changed. I think I'll stop at that. I hope I got the point that getting the right documentation and the safety aspect is very critical. And our industry, transport industry, is still fragmented. We need to get into more attitudinal, it's an attitudinal thing, rest everything will follow. That is number one. And we talked about circular economy, all right? I represent the French ports, Haropa. We talk on basically what it is. Anything is all about sustainability. Sustainability means there must be development. There must be economic development, but with sustainability, with an eye on green. All these things rest on only 4 pillars: development, investment, and digitalization, moving towards green energy, and last and not the most important thing is carbon footprint, reduction of carbon footprint. Now this is what is the most thing. In the shipping industry, how you do it? You reduce, you go by digitization, you change over to green fuels like alternate energy, what have you, everybody talks about things. Now, when I'm talking of French ports, 2024 is all about Paris Olympics. So the entire region and everything, the ports, everything is all on CNG, LNG. That is how you have to slowly change. And the entire region is committed to be net zero by 2030. And even well ahead, Haropa port is committed to be net zero by 2030, well ahead of EU's commitment of 2050. That is the one. What am I passionate about? Last 2 minutes on this one is we are all, globally everyone is worried about waste, handling of waste, and plastics, recycling of plastics. When we talk about sustainability, in all these things, there are 2 things which is talked about. We all talk about, everybody hears about reduce, reuse, and recycle. Bio-waste, waste. What is happening in this region in Haropa, there's a huge investment now which has come in where 80,000 tons of bio-waste is being converted into biogas, and that is to be supplied to the entire pipeline of Paris. Such things is what is my aim, what you want, we talked about it, what is needed here in India. India's thing is phenomenal, but waste production is phenomenal. This is what we need to do. We need to get more onto utilization of bio-waste. Second is, the last is that of recycling of plastics, reducing and recycling of plastics, the most effective way. The latest technology is already there. It has already come in. For example, you have companies like, what have you, Futero, who are coming into bioplastics. You have companies which are now really doing what is called recycling of plastics in a polymerization way, which is, I'm not the chemist here, you guys are the chemist here, you know what I'm talking about. That is where the entire plastic waste, PET and everything is recycled in a most efficient manner, reducing the carbon footprint by another 95% and ensure the 100%, close to about 100% is recycled.
Yeah.
These are my few takeaways which you are looking at this. And what is it? This is what India has got a huge waste issue. We are good at recycling. We might want to go into the step further, how to reduce the thing. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Captain Ram. And I think gone are the days when we used to dump waste from one country to the other country. It should just happen. So the chemical waste or iron ore waste or whatever waste, we should do that. Now I think gone are the days. Just a very question to you. Like Amit, right? Was showing that the drivers have that sensor system when you yawn or you get drowsy and you do the captains also have that on the ship or no?
Such high technology is not come in Captain, but let me tell you, it's a much simpler one. We have what is it called as a VDR. Now the entire thing, wherever, in all your workstation, you have what is called VDRs fitted videos. This is something like CCTV is already, like even a pilot cockpit, the VDR is fitted. Everything which is happening is all monitored and is recorded on a continuous basis. There's no way it is there. And most importantly, a captain doesn't dare. There are rules. There is no such thing called as fatigue. You have work rules, your work and rest rules, fatigue rules to avoid fatigue.
And plus you don't have the traffic. You don't overtake also, right? So.
I would like you to try and do any such things to try and let me give you a small thing on what a ship is. When you're talking about 200 meter, I'm not talking about abhi that everybody knows about Ever Given, Suez Canal, ruk gaya, वगैरह वगैरह. सब लोगों ने सुना होगा. But I'm not talking about that. Slightly smaller layout, not a 300 meters one, just a 200 meters thing. Do you know what is its stopping distance? All right, if it's moving at 15 knots, 15 knots is nothing else. You convert it into kilometers, it's about 20 kilometers per hour. We all are, I think I'm the most illiterate person here. Sala kaptan log padhe nahi hote. Everyone knows that F is equal to ma. Once the force, mass, we are talking about 50,000 tons, and acceleration, I don't have to tell you what it is all about. What is the braking strength you need? There are no brakes which is going to touch, there is no friction, there is water. Sorry, sir, the braking distance when you go from full ahead to stop or full astern is as much as 6 to 7 miles, nautical mile, that is 10 kilometers. So you have to plan, abhi wahan rokna hai na, yahan hamara highway mein, this is what you need to probably look at. Nobody worries about us braking distance, safe distance. In India, there's a lovely quip goes on. What is a safe distance? Safe distance between two vehicles is where you can bring your vehicle inside.
Correct, absolutely, yeah.
This is exactly what we know about. This is what is. People don't understand that he has got the technology. My car is ADAS, so I know that somebody comes in, it goes in auto mode and puts a brake. We don't really, it is like it's dangerous. You're listening to music, you're listening to something else, you're talking to somebody else, somebody comes in. That is here in land. See, there is no, the turning circle, if I put hard over, turn over, it will be a full 3/4 of a mile turning circle for me, sir.
Anyway,
Story on that.
Stop
on that.
That's another subject. Praveen, maybe you can get that subject also sometime.
You got to be passionate on that. Sorry, we're not talking shipping here. We're talking chemical distribution.
Yeah, so salute, Captain sir, salute to you. Thank you. Okay, now we come to Daljit. See, he is from Antwerp port, and we know that's the second largest port of the world today, right? And so a lot of technologies would have come in, new ideas would have come in there. What can we adopt from there?
Just correction, second largest port in Europe actually, not the largest port in the world. I think most of you know Antwerp port who are into the chemical industry or in the shipping line. We are the second largest port and one of the largest chemical clusters in Europe. In fact, second largest in the world. So you have all these big companies like BASF, Total, ExxonMobil, all having facilities in the port area, which makes us a large port area. The land bank itself is around 14,000 hectares of land. And that in-houses all these companies plus 1,400 other companies. You know, in terms of just the numbers, we contribute to 4.5% of Belgium's GDP. That makes us one of the largest contributors in terms of the economic sense. Uh, just, in terms of how we operate, in terms of what we have, you know, I've put that into four aspects of the supply chain. One is logistics, the other one is customs, third one would be infrastructure, and the fourth one is all about digitization. And we've been talking about digitization since a couple of sessions that I've been here. In terms of logistics, connectivities are very important as a port. We connect to almost 1,300 destinations from our port area. Inland connectivity is quite unique. We are a landlord port, which means that we don't do any of our operations ourselves. And that is something which only one port in India is JNPT, which is now a fully landlord model, operates on that kind of structure. So we have all these terminals that we have. We have 6 terminals in 2 locations. We were Port of Antwerp earlier, so most of the people know us as Port of Antwerp. But last year we merged with the Port of Zeebrugge. So now we are Port of Antwerp Bruges. We have added another terminal there, so it's 6 terminals in all. All these terminals are, run by private companies. It's all concessions that companies run. One owned by PSA, the other owned by DP World, one is owned by MSC. So all these terminals are run by private players. In terms of connectivity, we are connected with 4 modes of transportation. That's why we are multimodal port. We connect with rail, which contributes to almost 7.5% of our total transportation. And going by the sustainable way, in fact, we try to double it by 2030, making it to almost 15% of total transportation that will happen by rail. And that actually reduces a lot of road traffic. In fact, it's said that one train can take away almost 45 trucks off road and uses 6 times less energy and 9 times less carbon dioxide. So that's the time we're talking about. And as Captain mentioned, we also have a target of reducing at least 20 or at least 50% of our emissions at the port by 2030 and become a carbon neutral by 2050. Then we talk about road transportation. We have barges. We have 40% distribution done by barges. And then pipelines. Because we are a chemical cluster, 1,000 kilometers of pipeline that we have at a port area that distribute chemicals across and use can be done for 57 products that are listed there. Second aspect of logistics, very important as from the consumer perspective, is that all these companies that are there, the 1,400 companies, out of which some of them are really specialized in doing value addition for the customers. For example, we are quite specialized in doing debulking and rebulking for chemicals. All the containerized chemicals can be put into bags, could be silos, could be ISO tanks, depending upon the need. So these kind of value additions, the companies can do compounding, they can do any kind of blending at the port area, which makes it quite useful for us. The second aspect is customs. So when I talk about customs, it's completely a paperless procedure. It means that even when your ship is about to arrive, your procedure can start. And by the time your ship arrives at the terminal, it's already ready to be collected, So that kind of procedure is there. Just a value add in that customs area, we have almost equivalent storage of bonded warehousing, which means that your VAT and customs duty can be deferred till the time your products are out of the bonded warehouse. The third aspect is infrastructure. Now, as a port area, we also limited by size. I spoke about 14,000 hectares of land, but if you look at the work that we do and the kind of containers that we receive, last year we did around 286 million tons, and we are equivalent export port. So almost half of it is export business from us. So we need more land, but that project is currently underway. We are putting up a new tidal dock, but that takes a lot of effort and time. It may not be completed in the next 4 or 5 years. But what we have been doing in the mid is that most companies we talk about expansion. Some of our terminals, including one at DP World, they are talking of inspand, which is expansion, basically talking about optimizing your space within the current space that you have. Now, what they have done is they have looked at getting more of these automated stack cranes, and by 2026, they would have almost 17 of them, which will add 1 million tons of extra capacity within the current space that you're talking about. That is 30% extra capacity within the current space. So this is something very unique, and that is something I think we also working in terms of other ports to really look at what we can share our experiences with.
There's just a quick question to you. Rajneesh talked about that we are going to use methane and we are using now green ammonia And then now LNG basically is there, and we have got 680 ships running on LNG.
Yep.
How is Antwerp port coping with the hydrogen fuel coming in?
So I think we tend to become the green hydrogen hub for Europe because of the fact that our chemical infrastructure is quite enhancedly vast, that we have 1,000 kilometers of these pipelines. We're also looking at capturing a lot of carbon dioxide, and this is very unique because, when we talk about all this sustainability means, you also need to talk about the problem. We are a big chemical cluster. We ourselves are a big problem. We emitted almost 16 million tons of carbon dioxide last year, which is a huge number in terms of volume we look at. And this is not coming only from the chemical industries. This is also coming in, as Rajneesh mentioned, this also emits out of the shipping lines. The ships actually moor at the berths, and they are actually powering their own engines, which also emits a lot of carbon dioxide. And that's why I think a lot of the European ports have actually signed up an MOU to give onshore powering to boats by 2028. That's something happening. In terms of carbon dioxide emissions, we're talking about capturing those. And how do we capture is basically either capture by the way of the industry and store it undersea into the gas fields. But the other way of what we're looking at is actually using that carbon dioxide and combining it with some green electricity and hydrogen to produce methanol at the port, which we'll actually use for the industry.
Thank you, Diljit. As somebody said, whenever we speak, we emit carbon dioxide as well. So I don't know whether we should stop speaking. One last speaker which we have, Arun. See, you have heard all of us as old age distribution and supply chain happening, things are happening, right? You being the techie in our group here, right? How do you see this new age distribution model? How do you perceive it how would it really look like?
To start, I object to the branding as a techie. I'll just...
All these guys, all experts, they don't want to be called those, right?
No, just a small student of technology, and all of us are students of technology in some way or the other. But I'll start with humor, because as they say, humor is the best cup of tea. And because you can't get a physical cup of tea inside, let's start with humor. So there's a small joke at Source One. There are only two situations when people or employees are allowed to use the tag of startup at Source One. One is when the guy on the other side is looking to invest. And the second, when there's a wedding proposal. So these are the only two situations when we are allowed to tag ourselves as a startup. Otherwise, we're a full-fledged distribution company trying to become the largest in what we do. Today, we are India's largest in polyolefin side of things.
Not to quote me, I mean, not the wedding, there are no startups anymore. I mean, there have been had startups much before that. So.
Yes. Now coming to the question. So I'll borrow a phrase from a leadership expert called Simon Sinek, who used to use this theory of golden circle theory to explain brands. Whenever he's asked to explain a brand, which like say Nike, there's this theory, golden circle theory, which talks about explaining a brand in terms of three questions: the what, the how, and the why part of it. To borrow that theory and to explain what digitalization is all about, at least in the context of chemicals. See, there are three kinds of digitalization typically. We use it as a very loose word, but technically there are three kinds. One is the on-demand digitalization, which is what we are all into right now, right? Chemicals industry today is trying to flirt with on-demand digitalization, where they're trying to ad hoc digitize whatever the customer demands or whatever your vendor demands or whatever the government demands, right? For example, converting offline data into Excel sheet is maybe termed a digitalization, but it's an ad hoc digitalization, right? The second part is the programmatic digitalization, which is throughout the whole system, throughout the whole chain, you digitize everything. You do not have any human intervention. You're not doing anything offline. And the whole data chain, every supply chain part is digitized completely. And the third is forensic digitalization, which is before the event, after the event, and during the event, you digitize everything. For example, when we do a transaction, the suppliers need to be digital, the buyers need to be digital, the transportation needs to be digital, even the transfer of money needs to be digital, which it is anyway. Now that's where we are. So currently we are at the on-demand phase of digitalization, and eventually once more and more players adopt digitization in their business operations, that's where the systemic digitization will start. The second part is the how part. How are we adopting or how are we digitizing everything today? As I said, most of the players today are adopting an ad hoc digitization. And one example of that is there's an offline team within the companies who are digitizing offline data into online and calling it digitization. That's not digitization, that's a tip of the iceberg. And in future, we see more and more companies who are adopting meaningful digitization that will happen. The third and the most important part is the why part of digitization. Why do you want to digitize, right? So there are certain sectors which are digitizing because your product has become commoditized. You are selling chemistry, it has been converted into mathematics, the margins have come down, and that is why you want to digitize. The second part, you want to plug loopholes in your supply chain. You want to see where are you losing costs, where can you earn better. That's another strong reason why people are looking at digitization. And the third reason is because your peers are digitizing and you have a FOMO of not being left behind, and that is why you're going to digitization. So it's a buzzword, and like most buzzwords, it become overabused words as well. And that's the stage currently we are in. I'm sorry to take a little controversial stance on this, but we are way behind what actual digitization means. But I'm very, very hopeful after listening to all of the speakers today and what's happening around, we will eventually start doing meaningful digitization in our journey. So
Basically, I've been trying to sell that we go to digitalization and still it's not going to cost us any money. It will get us margins higher, right? That's what you mean.
It should. I mean, digitization or platformization will start delivering you higher margins. I mean, platforms are just a meaningful tool to digitize you, and they're supposed to deliver you higher margins.
Absolutely. I'll take that word and I'll tell that to my board as well, because they've been driving from top. Said, oh, why didn't you tell us that?
Hire me as a
Margins are going to
consultant.
increase.
Hire me as a consultant. Thank you.
Thank you, Arun. I think I've been told that we need to wind up. So any questions to the panel here? Yeah, sorry, yeah, sure.
Before that, one key point which you asked me, I forgot about it, probably talking, I got carried away with anything else. You asked about the circular economy. This is another of my passionate thing, just less than a minute. We all talk about, when we talk about chemical industry here in India and most places, we talk about what is called PCI, PR and blah, blah, blah. This clusters and that clusters and this clusters. Chemical cluster here, petrochemical cluster here, pharma cluster here, we're talking of clusters. As per me, this is slowly changing. It is an outdated model. It is a totally outdated model, like in Haropa, in the Seine River zone, where it is, when we talked about industrialization and bringing in investment, what we are looking at is complementing industries. The output of one, this is essentially to reduce the carbon footprint and essentially to ensure minimization of the overall sustainability. What have you put all the jargons in it? When I talk about complementing industries, this is the output of one going as the input of the next one. This is the Mool Mantra for which I would like to share this today. Well, this is probably, I've been talking about this for quite some time now, and hopefully the authorities do think about it. I'm not talking about go directly into it, at least think about it with the industry right here, because you know the input, what it is all about. The input of one, output of one can surely be the input of the other. If they are sited very next to each other in Bharuch, you don't have to worry about much about the environment and various other things. A small pipeline, as you said, like from one to another.
Like collaboration, I think the last panel.
Total word is collaborative.
Collaboration, they
And,
spoke. We
yeah.
all need to, for the government or industry here or
Exactly.
park houses or those GIDCs, etc.
Exactly.
Any questions for the panelists, please, from anybody? Yes, please.
Do you think with safety emphasis, the usage of flag of convenience while shipping, like those Panama flags, will that go down?
I think it could be for either of the two. I think again to you, maybe Captain, because it's on shipping. Otherwise, safety I would have spoken.
The word flag of convenience it's a very real misnomer. Flag of convenience does not mean lack of compliance. Compliance is given. That is, so flag of convenience is only for tax evasion purposes. It's got nothing. So using that misnomer, it's a wrong thing. But believe me, today without being compliant, you can't really be there. But the attitudinal change comes with the management. It is like I always say, everything flows from top down. Never, whereas the scapegoat is always the lowest guy on the rung. All right? But the real guy is the guy right at the management level who knows that all these things, or the chemist who knows that the MSDS is years old. We have tweaked the product. Now it needs different set of packaging. It needs different set of things. He has got to ensure that all these MSDSs and various other things are shared, and the quality of the safety is, the training is imparted to everyone on the distribution channel.
Yeah, just to add to that, see, as Brenntag, we are the world's largest distribution company. We are a $21 billion company. Safety first is the norm. There is no compromise anywhere. So everything starts with safety first. Then talking of compliance. See, again, compliance is given. Like sustainability is coming in, is again going to be given. Compliance is just given. Whether it's Tatas, I was with Tatas earlier. It's all compliance is just given. Anti-corruption, we have to go. We have to do basically code of conduct. Everything has to be done. So that's also is not a buzzword anymore. It is a fact.
REACH has come in and everyone says like now we are all REACH compliant. Everyone puts up the hand. The moment about 15 years ago, REACH ye kya cheez hai? Everybody was rushing to Chemexil and they said like REACH ka 1, 2, 3 batao mujhe. I was part of Chemexil. I was to interact very much with Chemexil during those times. Today REACH is a given thing. Everyone is compliant on that. See, that is like, it is like all those things, compliance is there on paper, but not on the commitment and attitude. That's what I've done.
But again, you have a lot of consultants on compliance as well. All the big fours as well, they have compliant departments, BUs, they outsource it. We can outsource it. And they come and audit you entire company, whether it's on safety, on chemicals, or even your own audits or your accounting, etc. That's anyway, that's another subject coming in. Thank you so much, friends.